Alright everybody, here we are with the sixth and final match of the round robin phase of our Rule of 4 tournament. And we see little Alex and CaDaBu going at it. Right now, CaDaBu is the tournament leader, or maybe tied. It's pretty close between him and Sean. Sean's one of our new players tonight. And we're seeing the Rogue versus Paladin matchup. And this actually is probably one of the better answers to the Paladin deck that we've seen tonight, because at least here you have a few early game answers that are going to be able to clear out those little dudes as they get created. And he's definitely not playing Muster yet. He's going to go Pilot Shredder, and I think he's going to make the Rogue deal with it first, and then get the Muster out when he's actually going to be able to use it effectively and protect those dudes. But right now, we see that Silver Moon Guardian again, and this is a card that, I suppose nobody really thinks about anymore, but if you look at the board the way it is right now, this card is a great answer to Paladin Shredder. It can kill the Shredder, and it can kill the leftovers. Guaranteed, right? There's no, well, there are maybe a couple of 2-drops that it's not going to kill right away, like a Noyatron or possibly Mistress of Pain, or if you're really lucky, Millhouse Manastorm. But for the most part, this actually is a pretty good anti-meta card when it comes to things like Pilot Shredders. The question is, in your own 4-drop slot, you're just going to have another Shredder. So I think that card is just owning the game right now. But it is fun to see people with different answers doing different things. And, oh, played it the wrong way around. That's a shame, unless he's going to get rid of the big one. Well, that was a slightly odd exchange, but at least it puts his health back up a little bit and gives him a little bit more board presence, which actually, I mean, he can't kill the Dark Scale Healer with just one of his minions, so it's not the worst at all. Well, now he can with the Blessing of Kings. But that's his turn, and now that he clears off and leaves the Steam Wheel Sniper as a 6-2, we'll see if Alex can find an answer. I think the best play on this turn is just putting out the Spiteful Smith because of his stats, and he just sort of forces the Steam Wheel to trade. You almost wish it was a Spectral Knight at this point, but we see what little Alex is doing here. He's got the Spiteful Smith so he can charge up his weapon and sort of clear things off like this 6-2. It's just unfortunate right now that none of that is sort of set up and ready to go. So he gets a trade, but he's going to see a piloted Sky Golem, and this is probably a great spot to just go ahead and silence that. And I think in this spot I would just make knives. I don't even know if I'd attack. Maybe he wants to keep putting the pressure on face. And there you go. So he loads up the True Silver, and this once again prevents him having to trade with his creatures. And this is a big it's a big thing you need to learn when you start playing Hearthstone, is that if you have an option to kill their creatures with something that doesn't require you to use one of your creatures, and you get to maintain board control and you get to keep building your board, and this is going to be advantageous in the long run most of the time, especially in things like the arena or just in general when you're playing the tempo game. There are certain decks that you can go ahead and just bypass creatures with. Things like Face Hunter, where the majority of the time you're really focusing on pouring all the damage onto their face, knowing it's going to be very difficult for them to race you down. But once you get into a game where you are playing the mid game and you're sort of looking at, getting closer and closer to turn 10, and if the game's going to extend past like a turn 10, well, then you need to actually make sure that you are controlling the board, and that's what we see CaDaBu doing right here. He goes ahead and takes the damage from that 7-3, and this is what people also don't realize, is that your life when you're playing this game is a resource. You don't need to have 30 health when you win the game. You can have 1 health and win the game. So it really is important to just sort of manage your life totals, especially when you're not facing a lot of pressure. And don't be afraid to swing into stuff and get rid of things, provided you're not just doing it blindly and just, not keeping good track of your life totals. You want to make sure you have a chance. And right here we see 2 taunts come up. I think obviously he's going to be able to do it the right way around and not lose a creature here. Having said that, we do see Alex holding a card that should actually provide a couple of answers once this exchange has gone down. So we'll see. And that's going to help make a real cheap Sea Giant too. So even at 5 mana, this card does sort of help play around Betrayal in some ways. Dr. Boom spreading it out with those boom bots. So this once again slows down those answers that Alex might have had. And I don't think it's going to be okay to just go nose dorm with Sinister Strike here. I think he wants to play the Sea Giant. And he might even... Let's see, how bad is it? How bad can the Boombots hit him? He's going to take 13-14 anyway. If he was to just Betrayal to the Boombots and just clear them off. So there is a chance that he could have taken another 6 damage, that's for sure. He's going to go ahead and use the Sea Giant to try and absorb some of that. He catches 3, and he still gets hit for 4. That's pretty unfortunate. So we see he's got 13, and there's Rag. Yeah, I was going to say he only needs, I mean, really he just needed a consecration and to go face, and he would have got the win achieved. But as you get to see in games where we get to get out the big creatures and it goes to parts like this, you just get to watch Ragnaros just pummel people turn after turn for 8 damage. And that'll be the first one for CaDaBu. Alright, and Alex is switching to his priest here. I think he's just hoping he gets some better value out of his cards, and perhaps using his healing power is going to be able to help keep them on the board. But I think the real key here to the strategy of this game is just getting on top of the board, and I think it's really difficult for the priest in this structure to stay on top of it. As I said in the previous video, you know, you're only going to have 2 Shadow Word deaths. Beyond that, it's going to be up to you to have the bigger minions, the stronger minions. And of course, with your hero power, yeah, you're going to be able to clear stuff and re-heal it, but that's only if you're ahead, and that's only if you have a bigger minion that's going to eat theirs, and then you can still heal it again. So we'll see how this plays out. It's the CaDaBu's Druid deck again, and he obviously has some pretty good creatures ready to go. And of course we see that Innervate, so at a certain point, I would imagine on the next turn, we're just going to see Stalag. This is probably a good spot. I mean, he's gonna Thought Steal early, try and pick those cards up early, and okay, so he gets a boom, and he gets a silence. That's not too bad at all. And then of course he's still got the Mind Vision, so it's possible that he could pick up another really good card. Playing them in time is going to be another problem entirely. So we see the Azure Drake come out, and he just keeps the card cycling. It's another great reason to play Azure Drake in your deck. That spell damage +1 is always useful, but at the same time, you know, you really need to cycle your decks in this game. You need to make sure you're drawing into the cards that are going to help you win. And Azure Drake is just does so much for you, and it's a pretty solid body. So it's always been one of my favorite cards. And then we see it coupled with Violet Teacher here, so obviously he's planning on using spells, and although we don't see any in hand really. I don't think Alex can afford to steal anything else here. Yeah, I think Silence actually might be the play on the Violet Teacher. He doesn't really have a lot of other instant answers, but that will slow down the board development of the Druid a little bit. On top of that, we do see that he did manage to get the Mind Steal on that Stalag. So Stalag, regardless of which side of the board he's on, will have the same battle cry. So the question is, does Alex kind of know this, and is he going to be able to play the card at a time where it's going to be most valuable to him, i.e., you know, once he's dealt with the other Stalag, can he get his on the board and like trade it into Fugan, so then they both have a Thaddeus, or can he silence it? But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think he's just throwing it out here and hoping that it can push through that taunt. And of course we see another frickin' glitch, and it's always the Druid cards. It's always the do something or do something. They just seem, when you're playing Spectator, to just get caught up on the board. So unless something clears that, which last time it took an Innervate, and a couple tournaments ago it actually took a Hunter Freezing Trap, sending back a Grove Tender to get the Grove Tender cards off the board. And hopefully we won't have to look at that the rest of the way through. Having said that, this might not take that long. So as we see, throws out Booty Bay, and I do believe the card, let's just have a quick, well, he's trading with it anyway. That was a Paladin Shredder. And now it is a Stone Splinter Trog. I don't think it's going to have a great effect on the cards the Priests are playing right now. There's a couple spells in here, but none of them are going to help him in this situation. And yeah, I think that'll pretty much do it. He doesn't have any taunt, and he just doesn't have enough healing. And so I think that'll do it. Yep, that's it. That's the game to CaDaBu, and he is just crushing the field tonight. Alright, so thank you for watching the preliminary rounds, and we will see you guys in the final.